2. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Cosmic Owl Astrology again and Professional Aquarian. I am Louise Edington, the Cosmic Owl and Cyberpunk Priestess to the stars. And I have a website, louiseeddington.com, where you can find most of what I offer. If you want to check it out or join my email list, I'm actually just finishing up creating an ebook from something I created like several years ago that I'm editing to update. And that's going to go out to all my newsletter subscribers and will also be available to any new subscribers when it's finished. I have a series immersion workshop coming up on. I actually pushed the dates back 2 weeks because I looked at the astrology for the first date I picked, and it's far better on March 21st, 22nd. So that is actually available on my website now, and there is an early bird price and a payment plan if you're interested. So go and check that out. I also have 2 memberships, and I write on Substack, and I do all this, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere. Kathy.
Hey all, I'm Kathy Bhiel. My website is empowermentunlimited.net. My YouTube channel is Professional Aquarian. I have a Facebook group that looks at how astrology is playing out on the ground and in the news. It's the Astro Insight Lounge, and you have to answer questions to get in. I'm astonished how many people ask to get in and don't answer the questions when it says you will not be admitted if you don't answer the questions. Anyway, that's my current, well, I've got many rants. That's one of them. My Patreon is patreon.com/Kathy Bhiel, and I have snippy daily forecasts at the $1 and up levels that are like 45 to 60 seconds long. I don't know anybody else who dares to do that. And I'm going to interject one other thing here. I am uncharacteristically going public that my birthday is on Tuesday, January 27th. And my request is, because Mars will be conjunct Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, collective action, my request is that you do something to support mutual aid in your community. If nothing else, please give to a food bank. Also, I will, on my description, I will have a link to Stand with Minnesota, which is a group that has vetted a whole bunch of different programs in Minnesota. If you want to give directly to there, that would be fine. So thank you. That is, you can say what you want to me on that day. That's not why I'm saying this. I say call to action. Please. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And one other thing in the description, at least on my channel, kind of a request of on my other videos, I've created a Google Doc with links to really good articles about suggestions of things we can do and about how we got here and what's happened and who's involved. And read, take what you like and look at what you like. But I'm collecting some good articles, and because somebody said to me, I have no idea what to do. And so, we can't tell you what to do, but I can post articles that give suggestions, right? So there's going to be an ongoing link to this Google Doc, and I'll keep adding more articles to it. So, all right. So we're going to look at the news again, but obviously it's how the news is playing out from all the things we've been talking about, because it's really playing out astoundingly accurately. Yes, things have not changed as fast as we hope, but boy, are they changing fast now. So, Kathy.
So I just want to give you the overview of the different types of influences that these stories that I've picked stories out of the news that illustrate what's been going on. And we have had aspects to Uranus, the planet of very sudden change, the awakener, the liberator. We have had a lot of aspects to Neptune, whom I call the cosmic fog machine, at the very end of the zodiac. And we've also had a march of the inner planets and the sun into the collective sign of Aquarius. And as they all get in there, they have a meeting with Pluto, the agent of unavoidable change, the guy that rules secrets and crimes and huge power realignments. Okay, so this week we saw lots of fractures coming to the surface and a quickening of change, new power networks. The EU froze its trade deal with the United States after Davos. Also at Davos, the Canadian Prime Minister spoke frankly about mid-strength nations no longer relying on bigger countries or playing with bullies and making their own alliances. Denmark and Sweden are selling off their U.S. Treasury bonds. That will have a big impact on this country. Trump announced he's going to set up a board for peace for Gaza. Invite only, and to have a permanent seat, you contribute $1 billion, and guess who gets it? And he gets to stay on his head after he's no longer president. So he sent invites to Russia and Belarus, and I think Hungary, and a bunch of Muslim countries. I don't believe there's a Palestinian rep. And France said no, thank you. They suspect that he's trying to undo NATO. And Canada accepted but said it wouldn't pay. And then after Carney's speech, Trump revoked Canada's invitation. Okay, new power networks. The U.S. has now formally left the World Health Organization. It gave notice 1 year ago that it was going to. There was a 1-year fuse. The New York Times editorial board, the New York Times editorial board, that's an important thing here, reported that Trump has made more than $1.4 billion off the U.S. in the last year. This is not from The Guardian. This is not from ProPublica. This is the New York Times. Trump publicly shared the French president's private messages and threatened a 200% tariff on French wine after France declined the Board of Peace invite. He also shared texts. So he shared private texts with NATO's head, Rutte, who manipulated him into accepting a deal for Greenland, and is basically what it's been. But now he gets to think it's his deal. All right. First Amendment fights. So in the area of information and talk and speech and big change and power moves, anti-ICE protesters disrupted a Twin Cities church service because the pastor works for ICE. And so the Department of Justice is going after the protesters, and one of the reporters, Don Lemon, who reported on it. The DOJ is claiming the First Amendment rights of the church. Lemon said, well, as a reporter, I've got First Amendment rights, and a judge refused the charges against him, but I think they're still pending for the protesters.
Can I add to that?
Please do.
They didn't actually interrupt the service. They joined the service and waited till the prayers were over before they did the disruption, as they call it. And the DOJ edited a picture of the black woman who was part of the protest to make her look like she was scared and terrified, and put it out there as a meme, they called it. And they said they're going to be doing more memes. I'm just anyway.
I don't believe a single thing that comes out of this administration.
No.
Okay, Brendan Carr, the commissioner of the Federal Communications Commission, is now talking about undoing an exception that's been in place for late night entertainment, the equal time exception. So he wants opposing viewpoints to get airtime when late night hosts have political guests. There's no talk about, having to balance out what right-wing media is doing. The judge has blocked the FBI. This is big. A judge has blocked the FBI from accessing devices that were seized from a Washington Post reporter in a national security leak probe. They took everything. And the judge says First Amendment concerns. This has been set for a February 6th hearing. So there'll be more on that. All right. In the whole, well, a whistleblower has leaked internal memos instructing ICE to use administrative warrants instead of judicial warrants and to break into homes in violation of the Fourth Amendment. So the ICE funding came up as part of the funding the bill to fund the government. So it's important to understand there's an existing like 75 billion that's already in place for ICE from earlier funding, and this bill would not affect that. So even if the Democrats had effectively stopped funding ICE in this portion of the bill, ICE still has plenty of money. Stephen Miller pressured the House GOP not to go along with amendments to this continuing resolution that would have prohibited ICE from arresting citizens and doing some other things that are, requiring the law to be followed. Trump is now threatening to destroy. He is moving forward on ask for research on stripping funding on February 1st from states with sanctuary cities, apparently like 14 blue states who did not vote for him that are under consideration. New Mexico is advancing a bill to ban ICE detention facilities in the state. There's a big battle going on in New Jersey over a new one that they're trying to build in my county. Moving on to another long simmering reason for all of the distraction, the House Oversight Panel voted to hold Bill and Hillary Clinton in contempt for their declining to pay attention to subpoenas, and it's going to have to go to a floor vote to get it referred to the DOJ. At court,
But if
yes.
it gets referred to the DOJ, though, they'll have to have discovery, and theories are that Clintons know that fully and are prepared to do that.
I wouldn't play chess with them.
No, I wouldn't.
So the request to appoint a special master to oversee the DOJ's delinquent document production, which is now more than a month old, it's missed its deadline. Two members of the House Oversight Committee had gone to the same court that was overseeing Ghislaine Maxwell to try to get a special master appointed, and that court said it did not have the power to do it. It didn't have jurisdiction over this. Okay. Jack Smith appeared before the House Judiciary Committee, and he repeated his evidence and conclusions about Trump's leadership role in what happened on January 6th. And of course, now Trump has called for the Department of Justice to prosecute Jack Smith. Meanwhile, Trump has sued JP Morgan Chase and its CEO for closing his bank accounts after January 6th. He said they did it for political reasons. Few more just random things, but they all kind of fit together. The Department of Justice in a court filing has admitted that Doge, remember Doge employees shared Social Security data on non-secure servers, all this Pluto Aquarius stuff. And at least one staffer signed an agreement with a group wanting to find voter fraud and overturn election results. Put a pin in that. So two more categories. I mentioned that all these planets changing signs are making their final contact to Neptune, and Trump has made less and less and less sense with Neptune at the end of the zodiac. He had like a couple of hours, more than an hour speech about his first year in office that just went everywhere, had lots of grunting and weird noises, and then at Davos. He confused Greenland and Iceland, and he said if it weren't for the U.S., they'd be speaking German, and he was in a country where they speak German when he said this.
Yeah.
And as Mars today, as we are recording, Mars is meeting.
You're giving away my aspects.
No. Today, I got it wrong. But today, is it Mercury and Pluto today? The Sun and Pluto. So the Sun and Pluto are meeting today as we record this, and there is a general strike in Minneapolis.
I was
which
just
is,
about to say, I hope you're talking about that general strike
yeah, I'm talking
because
about that general strike.
there'll be more of that too.
Right.
And
And there was
as yeah,
a Free America walkout on the 20th, which also coincided with these things
hmm
converging in Aquarius. That's, you know, again, all I'm doing is showing you stuff that fits what we've been talking about. It's not to
and
say
more.
there isn't more important,
Oh,
other slash important things happening. What do you got?
so many things. No, oh no, I don't think I have anything else news wise. But I just wanted to say, well, I'll talk about that when we go through the aspects. I think really that basically, there's more of the kind of fight back energy to come. I think so.
Hmm.
So I'm really going to go quite quickly through the aspects because there's some very major ones, and I'm only going to go through till February the 3rd because that finishes with another major aspect. But here we are today as we start. Mars has joined the Aquarius party. Um, and so look at all of this. And a reminder that Aquarius really it's a dual sign, but it's also a very future oriented sign. But it's also a sign that's generally in its higher essence associated with humanitarianism, groups of people rising up. The South Node of the USA is in Aquarius, the moon of the USA chart is in Aquarius, and the moon in mundane astrology, which is what we are really looking at, is the people. So that's all to say that look at all of this that's moved in. And as Kathy said, all of these energies have one by one passed over Pluto, which Pluto really both reveals the shadow and power plays and things like that. It kind of is the excavator, but it also helps people to stand in their power. And here we have today a general strike in Minnesota. On You can't make it up, on the day that the Sun and Pluto are together in Aquarius. So that's today, but other at the same time as this is exact, like within, it was very few hours just this morning. The transiting moon, which I don't usually look at, but a bit earlier this morning, was conjunct Saturn and then conjunct Neptune. And this conjunction of the Sun and Pluto happened right in the middle of the moon being conjunct Saturn and Neptune. And Saturn and Neptune are about to move into Aries, changing as well. So all of this kind of indicates to me the people rising up more. Do you want to add any more to that?
I would say that
Mm-hmm.
well, two things, that Saturn, Neptune in the 12th,
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's something that happened that we haven't been told. I
Oh,
think there's something
possibly.
that happened this morning, probably involving somebody's health
Oh, could
that
be
we haven't been told. That
because
would fit with that.
he had that weird bruise on not his handshaking hand. So, you know,
Right.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, quite
And
possibly.
I
Mm-hmm.
also want to, well, actually, two more things. That huge cluster in Aquarius, I mean, essentially that's one giant net, like look at like a wiring, a circuit board where everything is
Mm-hmm.
going. I mean, it's all connected.
Mm-hmm.
Action and power and transforming our relationship with ourselves and what we consider a leader and communication and information sources and
Mm-hmm.
the state with Venus, with Vesta being there, and then Venus, the people. This is
Mm-hmm.
all out in the street. And I find it fascinating that Mars at 0, Aquarius, was this morning sextiling the moon in Aries right when it moved
Mm-hmm.
over. So that's like really, really invigorating and
And
empowering
sextile Neptune before it moved
before it did
over.
that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And who's this little
So
guy down
kind of.
here in this? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, that's Sedna. I should take that out because
No, no,
that's
no, because it's
really.
also part of it, though. What's going
It
on?
is. Well, Sedna is like she's got like an 11,406 orbit, and I have researched her a bit, talked about it in my other energies. So the last time that Ceres was where she is now was at a major time at the end of the great ice ages, when people like alliances, communities all changed and stopped being hunter gatherers and started becoming kind of like creating communities and farms and things like that. So that's a big indicator of all these shifting world order in my way, I think, you know, of how we live on with each other and on the planet, right? So she is definitely a part of it. So I was obviously meant to leave her in for a reason. So, so when we had Carney's speech, of course,
Fits
um,
it perfectly.
yeah, yeah. So yeah. So if anybody missed that, that was the Canadian Prime Minister's speech in Davos, and you can easily look that up online. It really, you can read the whole transcript. In fact, I think I might have put that in my document that's below. So, you know, it just, whether, you know, you agree with it or like it or whatever, it doesn't matter. It fits the astrology perfectly. Oh, Kathy's gone upside down.
My camera is falling.
Mine does that sometimes. It's like,
Great.
anyway. So yeah, we're starting today with some major stuff happening, but as it moves through the week, tomorrow, the major aspect tomorrow is that Mercury will meet Vesta on the south node of the USA. Venus had already met Vesta. Vesta is the state of the state, really. The Vestal Virgins had to keep the fire going, or the empire was falling, and I think we can see the empire is falling right now. So more news about that, I think, as well, and people speaking out, you know. So any more on that one?
Nope, thank you.
Yep. And I will say at the end of the day, Pallas Athena will move into Pisces. So that she's at that last degree again, which is a real potent degree as well. So no more really to say on that. So no major aspects on the 25th, but you know, I've done a week ahead forecast. I know Kathy does them too. So if you want the more detailed lunar aspects. But on the 26th, the big shift, another big shift, Neptune moves into Aries for the next 12 years. Right. So, and that's, you know, we got a glimpse of it in 25 about what this could bring. And this is like a real boundary crosser to me, because it's the last sign into the new sign, the first sign of the zodiac. Neptune moves to the zero Aries, which is the world point, it's called. And it's always been associated with big shifts in everything. So, you know, yes, we got a taste of it, but then, of course, Saturn and Neptune are heading towards a conjunction at zero Aries that hasn't happened for 6,300 and something years at that degree. And Saturn Neptune conjunctions alone are bring big change. The last Saturn Neptune conjunction brought the fall of the Berlin Wall. Kathy did a whole presentation on it and things. So this is the start of the big shift, and I'm actually just going to move Neptune into it because I think it's so huge. And I always think that you really feel it even more because Pisces and Aries are so different, right? So, yeah, what do you think on that one?
It's Neptune's at one
Oh,
for
sorry,
zero.
I've just put I just put Uranus at zero Aries, which was
Ah,
not the right thing.
so
Sorry.
a
There we
couple of
go, back
things.
to that. Yeah.
Zero Aries is the very start of all life, all creation is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely raw life force.
Mm-hmm.
Neptune is the influence that unhinges us from normal worldly experience. So this could be a greater personal connection to like green witchery, like absolute nature being what your religion is. It could be people feeling their own spirit igniting within them.
Hmm.
There's a real rebirth. It's going to burn a lot of the cosmic fog off. I think
Oh
a lot of
yeah.
people are going to start to wake up, come to, and be very angry.
Yes. Yeah. And some things will become clear or clearer to those that were not paying attention in the news, like a certain person's health, in my opinion. You know, things like that. I'm seeing more and more articles about it, about a certain person's mental state, shall we say. So I think the move into Aries is going to bring even more. Would you agree?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's going to um I want to just put, I just want to address something that is flying around the web a lot. And the internet is giving people a lot of access to different types of astrological information. And there is fear mongering, and there are some people who maybe aren't all that schooled saying things. And there are some historic facts that are true. And it is true that the last time Neptune was in Aries, it was the start of the US Civil War.
Hmm.
But it's got a modifying and a break influence traveling with it. This does not mean that we're erupting in a repeat of what happened at the late 1800s. And in
No.
fact, we're already seeing the form that the conflict is taking. And Neptune
A
moving
mind war.
a mind war. Oh, yeah, we've been in a mind war for a long time.
Hmm.
But Neptune moving into Aries is going to ignite in each person a raw, I will survive and I know what I have to do instinct.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. And like you said, people are going to wake up angry and, phew. And then we add in, all of this Aquarius energy still. And just to add to what Kathy said about the pile up in Aquarius, it's Aquarius modern guide is, or ruler is Uranus, which by the 26th is just 8 days away from stationing direct in Taurus for the last time. So we're starting to feel that churn of an outer planet stationing and turning direction from our perspective. Clearly doesn't actually do it. So
Mhm.
and this is, all these shifts are just kind of piling up together, and meaning people's perspectives are changing as well as things become clearer. But I agree with Kathy. We're kind of already in this civil war, and so people, the fear mongering, please, no two periods are exactly the same. you know. So anyway, it's always a bit of a bugbear of mine when people put one thing out there in the astrology. So on to the 27th. I think Kathy and I clearly have a few bugbears today, right? But anyway, Mars and Pluto are conjunct. Happy birthday, Kathy, on that day.
We, I get that all year. Yippee.
Listen, oh, but I have a Mars Pluto square in my natal chart. Boy, does it make me driven to do stuff. So you can enjoy that. I think it's actually really potent, because I think this is actually this Mars Pluto square. It could bring some aggression and violence, even, for sure. But, I think we're seeing that already as well. So, as it applies, because it's a big conjunction. But I think it's also going to inspire people to, more and more people, to take action and to take a stand. Okay. And to say we can't let this happen in whatever way, whichever thing applies to you. What about you? What do you think
And
that
to
means for
band
us?
together and
And to band
possibly
together.
use
Hmm.
technology differently. It's
Hmm.
become It's been announced. Oh, I should have mentioned this earlier. If you have a Ring camera, ICE is getting access to your data. So a lot of people are switching what kind of home surveillance system they use.
Wow.
And that, I mean, that fits with Mars Pluto. I would think that there could be a really important hack. Actually,
Mm,
several important hacks that happen around the 27th. And one could be uh, taking down a grid, but one could also be revealing evidence of crimes.
mm. Now, if just a quick suggestion for anybody that wants to change their surveillance system, we got a Wise, WYZE, and camera for a front door, and so that's just one suggestion. It works really well, and it actually gives a bigger view than the Ring does. So if you feel worried about that, look into Wise. It was relatively inexpensive, I believe. Husband bought all that. So anyway, so yeah, this is a big conjunction, though, really big conjunction, and it's following on. Venus was there, Mercury was there, and the Sun was there. And I did want to just add that all of these personal planets are still under the beams of the Sun. So, a lot of it is going to, a lot of what's happening, is going to emerge as these planets move
Mhm.
10 degrees away from the Sun. So, 28th, the Sun meets Vesta again, the state. Is slightly off the US South Node, but the Sun is, the luminary, the big light. So I think we're going to just see more stuff because as that happens, Mercury and Venus are approaching their conjunction on the 29th. But before they do that, they both aspect Ceres. And so, again, that's like really people realizing that none of this is meeting any of our needs, that the oligarchs, whatever you want to call them, are just power grabbing, greed, all this kind of stuff. So that's how I would read that one. I'm sure there's many layers though. Do you want to say anything about that one?
What's getting my attention is that the moon that day
Mm,
at 12 Gemini is going to be so I think there's the national mood ought to be very interesting on that day because the moon
mm,
represents people, and with Mercury and Venus moving together, there'll be a mobilization. There'll be some news, and
mhm,
with the moon moving into the heading for the U.S. House of Allies and Open Enemies,
mhm,
there will be more talk,
mm,
lots more talk about alliances and agreements and people.
mhm.
I don't know what. I don't
I
even know
know.
what.
But yeah, to add to what Kathy said, the moon that day is in Mercury's home sign. um, Alliances, community, communication, and will aspect Mercury, Venus, and Ceres. So, as all those aspects I mentioned perfect. So that's all kind of coming together again. So yeah, so quickly, January the 29th, Mercury and Venus meet exactly. The moon has moved on, but did aspect them whilst they were very tight. So that's really kind of bringing together hearts and minds in some ways.
Hmm.
Yeah, and hearts and minds of the people.
Getting
So,
great clarity about values.
oh yeah,
Getting
yeah,
great clarity about values
yeah,
and communities.
very much so. So there's not many major aspects for the next couple of days. Mercury will quincunx Jupiter on the 30th, which is an aspect of adjustment. As the moon is in its home sign Cancer, the sign of the family, basis of security, safety, what makes us feel safe. And so these all aspect each other as well, so that's kind of making people adjust probably from what's come up from these previous days aspects. hmm And 31st, not much on in the big aspect kind of energy then, but we are almost at the full moon by then. And so then on February the 1st, I'll just get that one exact, we have the next full moon. And so the full, look at this when it's set in DC as well. um, because where it's set will, show how some of this is going to show up for our capital. And so all of this Aquarius is in the house of so-called open enemies and things, but the moon of the people is on the ascendant. I actually love that. That's people kind of rising up again to me. There's a lot more I could say, but this full moon is another one at 13 degrees in the series of 13-degree full moons. And so by this time, Mars is on the descendant of the in DC, and so that means it's rising up to the top of the chart. But another term I love for the seventh house, which is a more psychological modern one, is about how you compromise yourself for others. So to me, all of this is saying we've compromised everything we believe in for for others. Kathy.
Well, there could be some massive petulance that occurs on that day.
Oh yeah.
Um, with the moon in Leo, and I get to say that because I have moon in Leo, okay? But it's fascinating that the moon is basically counterbalancing that huge,
Mm-hmm.
it's like throwing a, I don't know what
Mm.
there's a thing in the Olympics where you have a
Oh.
weight and you're just throwing it, shoo, you let it go. Um, there'll just be a tremendous amount of tension and something coming to a head
Mm.
about uh, who is taking center stage,
Yeah.
and we may see what the hit I have about this, and this is not entirely astrological, although it kind of fits with it, is many people in this country have relatives who live in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
Many white people have relatives who live in other countries. And this notion of cutting us off from all these other countries, I think there'll be something coming to a head about what is our real place in the
Mm.
world, and it may have much less to do with specific borders right now.
Mm.
Getting a little esoteric here,
Well, no, I agree.
but this moon
Yeah.
seems to play a role in that.
Mm.
Like, where
And
are we in the scheme of things? And the scheme of things has an awful lot of participants in it.
mm. And the moon, well, Leo, the sign, sorry, rules the heart. And to what Kathy was saying, I'm obviously got family back in England as well. My whole family has. And I always think of Leo, so it does have that petulant side. So, yes, we could see that. But I always see the Leo moon as being like this big, overblown red balloon. It just is like, it's joyful and happy until it's pricked with a little pin and gets hurt. Okay, so I think a lot of people are going to be feel the sting, if you like. I think from what you're saying, yeah. So I think good way to look at what that side of it too. So then February the 2nd, after the moon will start to wane, we're really in eclipse season now, by the way, people. So that always brings big change and resets as well, but we're not looking ahead to the eclipses yet. The only major-ish aspect on February the 2nd is that Mercury has been trotting along, has passed Chariclo, which is the space holder and kind of wisdom weaver, if you like. But Mercury will sextile her husband, Chiron. I'm actually got interviewing Melanie Reinhardt on my channel in February about Chariclo, Chiron. This is their opening sextile from a conjunction that began in 1949. And
Oh my.
so, yes, because they're how they move together is very spread out. And there's going to be a series of sextiles. And that's kind of like the divine feminine, the divine masculine, if you want to put it that way. But, you know, I think it's worth mentioning. And Mercury kind of activating that, then it will be Venus is again bringing our hearts and minds into all of this. And Mercury is now about to leave the beams of the sun too, so it's going to start getting some talk. And Mercury will then also aspect Eris on February the 3rd too, so the table turner. So it's just like people are kind of just the process. More and more people are kind of waking up. Some are going to be angry, as we talked about with some of the individual aspects of Neptune moving into Aries, but people are going to say, what am I going to do about this? And more and more people are going to do stuff like general strikes, like things like that. So yeah. And then we'll just finish with, on the 3rd, Uranus stations direct. And again, that's a big shift. Also, this is conjunct fixed star Algol. And when Uranus was conjunct fixed star Algol, the first time was the apparent shooting of the ear, shall we say. So, and yeah, that's a big churn shift again, awakening, but it can be from shocks, can be from feeling like you've been whacked around the head. I always describe it with a 4x4 of like, it's like, wake up kind of thing. And sometimes it takes a shock to wake us up, right? So, there's also a lot of earthquake energy, and I have to, because I've been talking about the earthquakes for a few weeks here. Stefan Burns has too. We actually had an earthquake here, 7:49 a.m. I'm still in bed because on Thursday I don't get up too early, and my bed was rattling like that. There was an earthquake in Evanston, Wyoming that we all felt here too. So there's been a lot of earthquakes. So I think there's going to be more, but both actual earthquakes and earthquakes in the collective. Mm-hmm.
In that regard, when Uranus stations direct, you're going to start to see rumblings of really what's been happening with our institutions in the United States and what's been happening with monetary policy and with our economy, because Uranus has been sitting in a trine in a direct current to the U.S. Pluto in Capricorn in our house of resources. So as it moves forward, it's going to zap and like, oh, we're starting to see some big consequences, movement, changes, cracks, fractures. Additionally, it's been pressuring the U.S. moon, which is at 27 Aquarius. And Louise and I have both been talking about the awakening of the populace. This is when things really start to, I don't want to say blow up, but there's a tension and there are fracture lines. There are stress fractures that are just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh, there are. Oh, yes, for sure. Yep. So it's a very apt day to stop on. It's kind of breakdowns and breakthroughs as well, Uranus sometimes. So, you can see some things and some people probably breaking down, but also breakthroughs too. So
I think economic realities will hit people who have managed to not be paying attention.
Yeah, I think so.
That is a probability with this.
Yeah. And Uranus is in Venus sign, and Venus by where we're finishing now is now 7 degrees away from the sun, is going to emerge from under the beam soon as well. Mercury is just like a sliver from emerging from under the beams. We've kind of been in this tunnel for a little bit, but not for much longer. So anyway, so we are going to look at just a couple of charts quickly. There's so many people in the news. It's really hard to pick which one. So which one first? Minneapolis, where the general
Sure.
strike is today.
Right, where the general strike is.
Yeah. So Minneapolis, we do not have a timed chart. There's a couple of sites out there that claim a time, but Astro Data Bank has the most reliable data. So we've set it for noon, and we've put the sun. We've made it a solar sign chart, which we always use when we don't have an exact time. But immediately I notice that the Virgo moon right on the descendant there, and guess where the transiting nodes are, and the sun in Pisces. So shall I put the transits around?
Oh, sure.
So the transiting nodes are, well, they've just actually passed the sun and the moon, but when we move into the eclipses, the nodes appear to stand still right for about 8 weeks through the eclipses. I use the osculating calculation, the true calculation, but the average calculation is also about the same through the eclipses. So this is, even just on a solar sign chart, or even if you ignore the houses, this eclipse season is showing why Minneapolis is being hit. But the south node on the moon of Minneapolis is again the people rising up, I think, in Minneapolis, saying we're not going to let you do this to us. We're going to release any fears of standing up. Anyway, there's more, so much more, but
the Pisces stellium in the natal chart, all of those bodies in Pisces, and with Neptune being so close to the sun, and they're in a sextile or an opportunity aspect to Uranus in Taurus conjunct the North Node, this city is known for the arts, for being welcoming, for being accepting, for being a place with a lot of creativity. There's a huge whimsy to a lot of what's going on with the actions right now.
Well, it's water as well, isn't it, Pisces?
Oh my gosh, yes, all that water.
They've been putting water kind of on the sidewalks to make ice, and throwing snowballs instead of rocks, things like that. So yeah. Anyway, can't make
Oh
that up.
no, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I find it so apt that the transiting moon was exactly conjunct Venus this morning, the day they're having the general strike. You can't.
I have a very good friend that I've been in communication with a lot, who's in Minneapolis, who's striking today, and he has consistently said they picked the wrong people to F with. I'll point out, people, I mean, Pisces gets a rap for being airy fairy or mermaidy or off in La La Land or whatever. Pisces can have the strength of whales, Whales. And this is incredible communal power with all of that Pisces. Incredible power.
Yeah. Yeah. And with the North Node, to go back to the nodes, kind of being pulling us towards something, being so close to the sun and Neptune. This is just powerful. And also transiting Nessus again is right on Mercury and Ceres in Pisces, and Mars saying, what's happening here is revealing these abuses of power, and we're not going to take it anymore. It's just amazing. And then Neptune is moving into start to hit that Venus as well. You'll feel it as soon as Neptune crosses that border.
I would imagine that they'll get feistier
Oh, yeah.
next week when Neptune starts approaching that Venus. I don't
Let
know
me
how well they're going to be able to tamp down on keep violence at bay. But before you go, what do you make of
Oh,
Saturn sitting?
I was just moving Neptune into
Oh, I know
Aries, so yeah.
Saturn sitting on Sedna.
I would say that's a really big, it's called one phrase for Sedna is spiritual destiny through crisis, and Capricorn is about kind of backbone and deliberation. I kind of think they're being quite deliberate in what they're doing.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. And you hear them say it in their voices. It's so cold there, and we're about to have this massive winter storm. But they're saying, well, we're used to it. It's ice that aren't kind of thing. It's that kind of energy, right? So, yeah.
Look at the moon on that day.
Oh, wow. On their Uranus. Oh, my goodness. So that's Monday. We're recording this on Friday. So on Monday, what happens from this general strike really starts to kind of change things and might bring more people in for another general strike kind of thing as well. So,
Yeah,
because
watch
these
the
things
messaging.
often, it's on their north node as well.
Hmm.
So, this is, these movements, which you might want to call it, often build. It
Hmm.
starts with say a few people doing a general strike. I go back to Carney's speech about taking the sign out of the window, Vaclav Havel's story. Again, go and read the speech if you want to find it. It's saying that they really did choose the wrong place, but also Minneapolis was the right place for this moment in many ways, I think. So, yeah,
Yep. Yep. I would
yep,
agree.
it'll spread. So we're also going to look at one other person that we've looked at in the past, and I actually mentioned it in a couple of Facebook comments that we would perhaps look at him again today because Mark Rutte is the head of NATO. We've talked about him in the past. He has been called the Trump whisperer. And we've seen plenty, I think, of evidence that he has a way of letting Trump think that he got his way and being willing to take flack for it. Because I've seen reporters and journalists talking about how Rutte was being obsequious to Trump and things, but yet Trump didn't get what he wanted, right? So,
Yeah, he got
so
exactly what had been offered in the first place.
exactly. and I really admire Rutte for how he kind of handles him. I know he's not the only one, but he's the head of NATO and he's trying to strengthen NATO. So, and he is strengthening NATO. The resolve of NATO is growing. So, shall I put the transits round? I'll leave it for um the day that Neptune moves into Aries over here. But again, I want you to invite you to look at the transiting nodes. They will stay at 8 degrees through the eclipses, but that is right on his ascendant descendant as well. The opposite way round in the solar chart for Minneapolis, but these two, the place and the person, are kind of a part of this big collective change that we're going through, right? So, he again is the right player in the right place, but also look where Uranus is stationing right at the top of his chart, where it was again when a certain person apparently got shot in the ear. But Uranus is stationing direct right on top of Rutter's chart and is mid-heaven, his most public presence in Taurus, which is about values and stability as well. In many ways, Taurus is very stable, and it's about resources. And he's kind of managed to work it so that Greenland's resources are somewhat protected, right? I'll just mention one other transit. There's so many, But Chiron is right on his natal moon in his eighth house, and we do have a time for him. So this is definitely his eighth house in shared resources, and but it's also a the eighth house can be a place of manipulation and power plays and things like that. But Chiron on his moon is, to me, showing his very clever ability to make Trump feel like he got his way.
The Uranus moving across his midheaven could very well presage a very, very sudden change in his occupation, in his role in the world, but I don't see it being a bad or disruptive thing for him
Mm, mm,
because he's coming up on his Jupiter return. This is taking it way far out. You see that he
mm,
has Jupiter in the sky in his house of group associations and
mm,
organizations. And this summer, Jupiter is going to come back to that spot, and then it's going to cross his, at the end of June, it's going to enter Leo, and in July, it will cross his
mm.
Juno, which is associations. And so if he leaves NATO, he's not going away. He's going to do
Oh
something
no!
else equally
And of
equally
course,
powerful.
he's just finishing his Saturn return as well.
Thank you. I forgot to
So
mention that.
yeah, but one other thing on Uranus before we talk about that, it could indicate a change of job, but to, it could also suggest that, I mean, whoever knew the name of the NATO head before all this? Whoever really paid much attention to who was the head of NATO?
Right.
And that's kind of bringing him into everybody's kind of awareness and saying, oh, well, maybe it does matter who the head of NATO is, kind of thing. So, anyway, just another way of it could be both too. So, and so, yeah, Saturn return. We're both past our second Saturn returns, and I know how transformative mine was, and it's a real time of maturing and growing into kind of who you were meant to be in this world if you're kind of doing, you know, doing the trying to be the best you can be, which is very Saturn. So, about maturity, growth, things like that. So, what would you say about that one too?
Well, the second Saturn return is a time of looking at what you've done with your life and
Mm,
thinking, seeing what you're done with. Like I'm finished with this, I'm
mm,
finished with this. What kind of platform do I want for the next 30 years or
mm,
so? And there
mm,
is an invitation to step. So he's been challenged to step into a role of authority and leadership
mm,
with allies, essentially,
mm-hmm,
like a culmination of whatever his whole career has been in terms of the relationships that he's built and made. And I find it fascinating that Pallas transiting Pallas Athena at 0 Pisces in his sixth house of daily life management is
mm,
exactly trining exactly in an exact current with Mars in Scorpio in his second house of talents and abilities and values. He's
mm,
very good at undercover work, behind the scenes work, manipulative work, doing
mm,
something, cloaking what's really going on, which we saw.
mm-hmm.
I would suggest he knows damn well what he's doing
Oh, I
with
think he
Trump. I would suggest he's not kowtowing, but um,
no, not at all.
playing him.
Not at all. Virgo rising, is really about wanting to do very meaningful things. All these things have layers and work and to do kind of useful work in the world. But that Mars in Scorpio, I always kind of call the psychic surgeon. So I think he can see right into Trump and know how to work him. The Trump whisperer again. Yep, and Pallas Athena, the strategist. I just love how he's just willing to just sit there and they're all going, you're kowtowing to Trump. And he goes, well, I think you'll all be glad Trump was here. And I think we will because he was able to deal, deal with Trump, right? So, and he's making NATO stronger, you know. they've come together, or starting to come together in ways that they hadn't done for a long time, because, well, everybody thought that the world order was, the way it is, and that's it. But anyway,
Yep.
yeah. So I really admire him, and yeah, he's tough, which is another good thing. So yeah. So I think we're done. Yeah.
I think we are done.
Hmm. But watch Minneapolis, obviously, we're going to, but watch Rutte through these eclipses too. Watch what other things he comes out with and says. So, because if the media don't shut up, Trump is going to realise that he was kind of played a little bit.
Assuming he remembers from moment to moment.
Well, that's true. Yes. Yeah. So anyway, as always, do your self-care. But again, I've got that document with some articles, and one particular one gave a lot of suggestions about things you can do. So you can go and look at that. I can't remember what it was called. But local, just, and give to the food bank or something on the 27th. I will
Listen to
come.
Mozart and read some Lewis Carroll. There we go. We're all complete. All right.
Oh, Lewis Carroll. Could read Lewis Carroll any day.
It's true, but it's his only
Yes,
birthday of the year.
yes,
He has
yes.
364 unbirthdays.
All right. Peace out, everybody.